Can you start, before we get into the process here and the exercise that you're going through, the conditions in which Evan is being held? You had written a terrifying story a couple of weeks ago about a very notorious prison in which silence seems to be the scariest component. You never see anyone, you never hear anyone. Is he still there?
He's still in that prison. It is the Security Services prison in Moscow that is pretty infamous, as you say. He's no longer in solitary confinement. Our reports, scant as they are from lawyers and what consular visits have been so far, is he's in reasonable health, reasonable spirits, and we're just praying that lasts.
So what happens now? We know, obviously, your company is, I'm sure, in touch with the U.S. government. We know how they feel regarding this situation. But when it comes to Russia, Evan Gershkovich, who's there at the court, he is now going to be treated as a spy.
Obviously, we consider those charges ridiculous. He works for the Wall Street Journal. He is not a spy. But so far, the process has run its course as it would. And we have seen a appeal that we filed turned down, a request for the end of his detention turned down. We've filed an appeal again, so let's see. But to be honest, when you have a bogus detention followed by bogus charges, we don't really expect any different outcome going forward. So that would lead to a trial on these bogus charges, and we will see what happens after that.
To what extent is the Journal able to communicate with him?
He has been receiving letters from colleagues and friends from around the world, and we've been hugely buoyed by the support he has received, as I'm sure he has been buoyed by it. He's got one letter out to his parents there in Philadelphia, and he has had visits from lawyers and visits from consular officials. It was very disappointing to us that the Russians today said that they would deny him the next consular visit that we'd hoped would come in mid-May.
And that's unusual, correct?
Unusual or illegal? Huh. It was in response, they said, to the denial of visas to Russian journalists to the United Nations last week. But there's obviously no comparison between the two. And, yeah, we think it's atrocious.
I'm sure that you're in touch with his legal team. Are you in touch with the administration as well? Because people are having open conversations about prisoner swaps and all kinds of ideas. What's real?
It's very early. If you look at the case of Paul Whelan, he's been there for a long time.
In that same facility.
Initially he was.
Yeah.
And on similar charges, which also have the U.S. government have said are bogus. So that's been 5 years. We are working very closely with the government. They've been helpful to date, and we look forward to them continuing to press for Evan's release and the release of all wrongfully detained people, including Paul.
And today what we had from the U.S. government was more sanctions on the FSB because of this. What kind of message, though, is Russia sending to any journalist that wants to go and cover Russia?
The message is that they don't want journalists to go and cover Russia. Evan was there doing a very good job for us. He was one of a small band of foreign reporters and a small band of independent Russian reporters who are trying very hard to cover an incredibly important story. Yeah. And the message from this is you're not welcome here.
Why did they seize him? Why did they pick Evan?
Obviously, we consider their rationale for it completely bogus. He was an accredited foreign journalist there. We don't know. I assume it was part of wanting to exact some leverage in whatever grand designs that they have, but that's...
But they could have chosen any number of, realizing a small number of reporters. Why did they go after yours?
Don't know specifically why he went after ours. Evan's family history is fascinating. We don't know if it played a part, but his parents were Russian Jewish or Soviet Jewish emigres who fled the persecution in the Soviet Union. They moved to Philadelphia. The reason he went back and the reason that he was fascinated by his own heritage, he spoke the language. He was hugely qualified for the job. Maybe that played a part in it, we don't know.